Imagine being kidnapped and blindfolded on a Texas farm. Your ability to memorize the exact times heard by passing commercial airplanes, a daily chore routine, and the changes in temperature will lead the FBI to bring down one of the most known Prohibition era gangsters, Machine Gun Kelly. George Kelly Barnes, or as he was better known, Machine Gun Kelly, was born on July 18, 1895, in Memphis, Tennessee. Kelly's life of crime would begin when he enrolled in Mississippi State University to study agriculture. Kelly was often considered a poor student, and it's said that his highest grade of a C+ was awarded for his good hygiene. He was at constant odds with the faculty and spent much of his time trying to work off punishments he brought on himself. During this time, he met a young woman named Geneva Ramsey, whom he fell in love with. Kelly decided to quit school and marry her. During the Prohibition era of the 1920s, Kelly worked as a bootlegger. In 1926, after struggling with holding a steady job, heavy drinking, and a spiral into crime, he divorced his first wife, Geneva. With several run-ins with the law, he decided to head west. To protect his family and to stay on the run from the police, he decided to change his name to George R. Kelly. He continued his crime spree and bootlegging until he was arrested in Tulsa, Oklahoma for smuggling liquor onto an Indian reservation. He was sentenced to 3 years at Leavenworth Penitentiary, Kansas, beginning February 11, 1928. Kelly was released early for being a model inmate and met Kathryn Throne. Throne was an experienced criminal who bought Kelly his first Thompson submachine gun. The firearm was purchased at Wolf & Clark Pawn Shop for $250 in Fort Worth, Texas. According to legend, he was so proficient in his marksmanship that he could write his name in machine gun rounds. In September of 1930, the couple was married in Minneapolis, Minnesota. According to a 1938 book authored by FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, the Kellys and Eddie Dahl kidnapped a wealthy manufacturer in Scott Glen, Indiana for $50,000 ransom. If you trust Hoover's claims, it is assumed he is referring to the January 26 abduction of Howard Arthur Wolverton. Wolverton was released unharmed 24 hours later, and the crime was largely forgotten. Kelly made the history books when he kidnapped a wealthy Oklahoma City resident by the name of Charles F. Urschel and his friend Walter R. Jarrett. The couple held Urschel at a farm that belonged to Kathryn's parents for a ransom of $5 million in today's money. Even by being blindfolded, Urschel made note of his experience. He reported different background sounds, counted footsteps, and leaving footprints on surfaces within reach. This evidence led the FBI to discover he was being held in Paradise, Texas. An investigation concluded that the Kellys were hiding in Memphis. Special agents were dispatched to Birmingham, Alabama to capture the Kellys. In the early morning of September 26, 1933, a raid was conducted on the residence of J.C. Titchener. George and Kathryn Kelly were taken into custody by FBI agents and Memphis police officers Thomas Watterson and Sergeant William Rainey. It was reported that Machine Gun Kelly was arrested without a weapon. This arrest would be overshadowed by the escape of 10 inmates who would later form the Dillinger Gang in Indiana that same night. An investigation in Coleman, Texas disclosed that Kelly had been housed and protected by Casey Earl Coleman and Will Casey, and that they were assisting in storing $73,250 of the Urschel ransom money on his ranch. The important part about the Urschel ransom case was that it was the first criminal trial that was allowed to be filmed. Also, kidnapping was made a federal crime, and this was the first major case to be solved by the FBI, as well as being the first case to involve defendants being transported by airplane. Both George and Kathryn Kelly were sentenced to life in prison. Machine Gun Kelly was a model inmate and served his last 21 years in prison. 17 of those years were spent on the famous Alcatraz, where he was inmate number 117. Kelly was transferred back to Leavenworth in 1951, and on July 18, 1954, his 59th birthday, Machine Gun Kelly died of a heart attack and was buried at Cottondale, Texas Cemetery in Kathryn Kelly's father's family plot. Kathryn was released from prison in 1958 and lived in private under the name Lara Cleo Kelly until her death in 1985 at the age of 81. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and thank you for liking and subscribing to the channel. You can support the channel by joining our Patreon and by buying our merch at eclectichistoricalsociety.com. This is the Eclectic Historical Society, and remember, history is forgotten if it's not repeated.